Happy morning, my dear student friends. Once again, I welcome you all to this YouTube class. So, in our previous class, we have discussed certain concepts like introduction, what are the sources of data, how do we collect the data, preparation of good questionnaire, mode of data collection. Means in that mode of data collection, we have covered two modes like personal interview and mailing questionnaire. Let me glance over the concepts which we have discussed in our previous class. In that introductory part, we have understood that why we need to collect the data. It means for what purpose we have to collect the data. There we have understood that data which helps us to see or show evidences for reaching a sound and clear solution. I repeat, data which helps us to see or show evidences for reaching a sound and clear solutions. That's why we have to collect or we should collect data. Without that data or facts or the information, we cannot able to get or see evidences, or we cannot able to have sound and clear solution to that particular kind of problem. That's why we have to collect data. This is what we have understood in that introductory part. Thereafter, so we have understood why we need to collect the data. Thereafter, where these data available, or what are the sources of data? That is what we discussed. Okay, there are two kinds of sources, such are primary data and secondary data. And we have defined what is primary data. Primary data is nothing but it is the data which collected by investigator or enumerator by conducting an inquiry or investigation. I repeat, primary data, it means the data which collected by enumerator or investigator by conducting an inquiry or investigation. Such data are called primary data. So generally we call these data as first hand information, because these data are collects for the first time, or these data we collect from the respondent for the first time. That's why we used to call these data as first hand information. Later we have seen methods of primary data collection. That primary data we can collect through the certain methods like personal interview, telephone interview and mailing questionnaire. So these are the certain methods. From these methods we can collect the primary data. And this primary data has its own loopholes, drawback or disadvantages. Let us see what kind of disadvantages we can find under this primary data. So it expects more time, cost and expert or trained enumerators. See, that primary data which expects a lot of time, because we are conducting or we are collecting the data, means the primary data from the respondent, that's why somewhere it expects time, because we have to go at that place where that respondent resides. That's why we incur cost. And here we collect the information from that respondent, no? At the time, that investigator or that enumerator should be trained. So if he is not expert, or if he or she has not trained at the time, that enumerator may fail to convince or convey the questions whichever frame in that questionnaire. That's why that enumerator or that investigator should be expert or trained enumerator. So these are the certain drawbacks of primary data collection. Thereafter, secondary data. Secondary data means the data which have been collected and processed by some other agencies or person. So that kind of data are called secondary data. I repeat, the data have been collected and processed by some other agencies or person. So such kind of data are called secondary data. Means these are the second hand information, because these data are already collected and processed by some other individuals or person. Means these data are not collected for the first time. These data are already collected and been processed by the some other institutions. That's why these data are called second hand information. We can get the secondary data from various kinds of sources like government documents, newspapers, books which written by economics or some other learned scholars, journals, thesis or dissertation works of scholars, a website information. So these all are some sources of secondary data. Can give example to this secondary data as that census document. I repeat, that census document and NSSO reports or we can call as example to that secondary data. Thereafter, how do we collect the data? Means we have understood why we need to collect the data. Thereafter, where these data avails and how to collect those data. Then we have to understand how do we collect the data. Means we have understood how we can collect the data. Generally we collect the data by using survey method. In that survey method we use questionnaire or interview schedule to get information from the respondent. So thereafter we have seen what are the qualities of good questionnaire, or when or while preparing that questionnaire, what kind of points we have to remember or what kind of points we have to consider. There are about 8 points which we have to consider, like the questionnaire should not be too long, the series of questions should be moved from general to specific, the question should be precise and clear, the question should not be ambiguous, the question should not use double negatives, the question should be a leading question, the question should not be indicate alternative to the answer, the question should be closed ended question, or the questionnaire should contain more of closed ended questions. So these are the certain points which we have to consider or which we have to keep in our mind while preparing a questionnaire. Hope you have understood the concept. Thereafter we have seen mode of data collection. We can collect that data through the various kinds of ways. Among prime ways are prime methods are personal interview, telephone interview and mailing questionnaire. So in that personal interview we have understood that where the researcher conducts a face-to-face interview, that respondents, that interview is called personal interview. See, in that image I have, from that image we can understand there are two persons and one person who is having, or one lady who is having laptop. She is asking a question to that person who is sitting in front of her. So who is having that laptop? No, she is called investigator or enumerator, who is asking the questions to the person who sitting in front of her, and we can call that person as, or we should call that person as respondent, because he is responding to that lady. Okay, so this is what personal interview, because here that interview is conducting face to face. No, that's why this is personal interview. This kind of method or this kind of way we choose generally when that researcher can access to all the respondents, means where that researcher can able to meet all the respondents. No, at the time they use this kind of interview method or the mode of data collection, that is personal interview. Thereafter we have seen merits and demerits of that personal interview. Thereafter we have seen mailing questionnaire kind of method. So here the data which we collect through the mail. I repeat, this mailing questionnaire we collect the data through the mail. So that kind of method is called mailing questionnaire. So this kind of method generally we use when that researcher cannot access or cannot able to meet all the respondents. At that time he can get the information through the mail. Means suppose if a respondent is residing in any remote area, at that time that investigator can get his information through the mail, or by sending a questionnaire he can get the information from that mail kind of medium. So here that researcher can ask respondent to complete and return it by given a date. Means here this kind of activity we can find where the researcher send that questionnaire to that respondent, and that researcher asks to that respondent to complete means that respondent has to fill that questionnaire and he has to return that questionnaire within the given date. So in that image we can understand that lady who is sending a questionnaire to her respondent. I repeat, in that image that lady means she is investigator or enumerator who is sending a questionnaire to her respondent. So here also we have seen merits and demerits of that mailing questionnaire method or way. Thereafter the third and last kind of way of data collection or collection of data, that is telephone interview. In this method, if that investigator or enumerator gets data over the telephone or cell phone, no, so that method is called telephone interview or telephone interview method. Means where the investigator or enumerator asks questions over the telephone, or where that investigator or that enumerator gets the information over the telephone, that kind of method is called telephone interview. So this kind of interview also conducts by the researcher if he cannot access to all the respondents, means where he cannot meet that respondents. At that time he can get the information from that respondent by telephone or the cell phones. Okay, So here this kind of interview method also has its own merits and demerits. Let us see first merits of a telephone interview. The first merit is relatively low cost or less expensive. See, the telephone interview kind of which is relatively low cost, because here we are getting information over the telephone. No, it means we are not getting, or we are not here we need not to go at that place where our respondent resides. Okay, that's why by sitting at our office or at our place we can collect the information if our respondent is residing in anywhere. So that's why, so here we incur less cost, or this method which is less expensive. Thereafter, second merit, relatively less influence on respondent. See here, this telephone interview kind of method which helps to, or where we can find less influence on respondent, means sometimes that enumerator or that investigator may influence on respondent. Okay, whenever he asks questions, at the time he may influence to that respondent how to answer. But here we cannot find that face to face meeting of that interviewer or that investigator and respondent. No, that's why here we can find less chance of influence on respondent. Like third, relatively high response rate. See, I already told you what is response rate. Response rate means the number of answers to the question. Means it means so number of answers to our questions. Means relatively high response rate means here we can get answers to all the questions. It means if we are having 20 questions in our questionnaire, so here we may get around 17 or 18 to 18 answers from the respondent. That is a relatively high response rate. Means here that investigator or that enumerator can get answers to the most of the questions. That's why this interview which enables us to get more answers. So it is also having its own demerits like limited use. So the first demerit of this telephone interview is limited use, because to conduct a telephone interview we need cell phones or telephone. Okay, so without a telephone we cannot conduct this kind of interview. That's why nowadays we are having cell phones with everybody, but generally if we talk, so to conduct the telephone interview we need a telephone, but we cannot find a telephone with the everybody. That's why the use of the telephone which is limited. That's why here we can conduct this telephone interview limitedly. Means we cannot conduct this telephone interview at everywhere. That's why the telephone interview means here we can find a limited use. Means we cannot use this kind of method everywhere or universally. That is the first. Thereafter, second, reactions cannot be watched. See, in this telephone interview, partially we cannot watch the reactions of respondents. I used here partially because nowadays we are having smartphones or touch screen phones, or where we can see the faces of the respondents. That's why I have used partially. In that keypad cell phones, we cannot find this kind of possibility, means where we cannot see the reactions of respondent. That's why partially we cannot watch the expressions of respondent. That's why they have used here. That's why they are saying here reactions cannot be watched. In this telephone interview, we cannot see, or we cannot able to see the reactions of respondent. Thereafter, investigator cannot ask open-ended questions. So since we are conducting a telephone interview over the telephone, no, that's why we cannot ask open-ended questions. I already told you what is open-ended questions. Means the question which expects, that open-ended questions which expects essay type answer. That answer may 1 page, 2 page, or more than 2 page. That's why over the telephone we cannot ask this kind of open-ended questions, or we cannot take the information from that respondent for hourly, or we cannot able to get the essay type answers in this telephone interview method. That's why it's a demerit of this telephone interview method. So if we see the image whichever I have used there that lady is getting information from the respondent over the telephone. Hope you are getting what I am saying. Just mention in that comment section whether you have understood or not. So let us get into the next concept. Yes, pilot survey. So here in our previous concepts we have understood that from which ways or from which modes we can collect the data. After selecting the modes, we should practice, or we should conduct this kind of survey, that is pilot survey. Let us understand what is pilot survey. Once a questionnaire ready, it is better to conduct a tryout with a small group which is known as pre-testing or pilot survey. See here in that image I have used, there is one lady, you all know who is she. I am not asking her name, I am asking that lady is playing a role of investigator or enumerator. Beside of her we can see some number of persons, and in front of them we are having 4 individuals or 4 people. It means before actual survey, first she has to use that questionnaire with that 4 individuals or people. So that is what pilot survey. Let me define what is pilot survey. Pilot survey is nothing but it is the pre-testing of a questionnaire with a small group is called a pilot survey. I repeat, pilot survey means it is the pre-testing of a questionnaire with a small group is called a pilot survey. So this kind of method which we usually conduct before actual survey or before conduct actual survey. So this is what pilot survey. So that is what we can understand by using or by seeing that image. This pilot survey which helps to know some idea about the actual survey. That is what I have said. This pilot survey which enables us to know some ideas about the actual survey. From this pilot survey we can understand the shortcomings and drawbacks of questions. See, this pilot survey which helps us to see the shortcomings or the problems whichever we face while conducting that survey, no, so that we can understand from this pilot survey. Are drawbacks of questions. This pilot survey which helps us to know that drawbacks of questions means what kind of information we get from particular kind of questions, whether that question is suitable or not to that survey, that we understand in this pilot survey. Along with that, performance of enumerator and the cost and time involved in the actual survey. See that pilot survey which helps us to understand the performance of that investigator or that enumerator, means who are collecting that information. No, we can find the performance of that enumerator from this pilot survey. Along with that, cost and time involved in the actual survey, means to fill a questionnaire, how much time incurs, and how much days or how much time or how much cost means to fill the information of one respondent, how much days or how much time and expenses we incur, that we can understand from this pilot survey. I repeat, this pilot survey which helps to know some ideas about the actual survey. We can understand the shortcomings and drawbacks of questions. It helps to know suitability of questions, performance of enumerator, and the cost and time involved in the actual survey. This is what we understand from this pilot survey. Hope you have understood. So let us move into the next concept, that is census and sample survey. Yes, let us understand what is census, thereafter sample survey. So might be you have understood or hope you are getting what is census, because I have used there one image. There we can find number of people. Okay, that image shows that there we can find number of people, or we can call them as population. Okay, so census means in which every element of the population is known as census. See, census means in which we find every element of the population, means that census is a kind of a survey where we can find the information of population, means each and every information of population or people. Here we can find the complete information of the population. That is what I have said. No, yes. Here we can find some kinds of informations like literacy of that people, health status of that people, assets whichever are possessed or possessing by that people, and many more related to that population. We can find the information in this census kind of survey. In India, we have some agencies which working on population. See, in our India, we are having a certain institutions or agencies which are working on population. In this, they collect information from all the households in rural and urban area. See, in this census survey, we collect, we means that agency or that institution which collects information from the all the households in rural and urban India, means the households which are we can find in that rural and urban area, no, or urban India, no, means here we get the information from all the households which comes in India. Okay, irrespective of area, we collect information in this census survey. Okay, for example, we can give a agency as Census of India, which is carried out every 10 years. Okay, that Census of India kind of survey which we conduct once in a 10 years, or that carries out every 10 years. On this, they have asked one, or they have framed one marks question. That's why just keep in your mind that Census of India, or that kind of survey which we conduct every 10 years, or once in a 10 years. In this, we can find demographic data like birth and death rates, literacy, employment, life expectancy, size and composition of population, and some other kind of. It means around 18 kinds of information we can find under this Census of India kind of document, or from this kind of survey. The census document generally publishes by Registrar General of India. I repeat, the census document publishes by Registrar General of India. On this also they have formed one marks question. Please remember that census document which publishes by Registrar General of India. So very recently we have seen, or the last census of India was held in 2011. According to 2011 census, population of India was 121 crores. See, according to that 2011 census, our population was 121 crores. So, if we talk the population of our India at 2020, we can say it is, or it will be around 130 crores. So next year we are going to conduct that census. Means we have crossed around 10 years, no? That's why next year means in 2021 we are going to conduct that census. So let us see what is sample survey. So it is one of types of surveys like sample survey. So how we have seen that pilot survey, no, like sample survey, which also moderately or partially equal to that pilot survey. So in that pilot survey we have understood that the pre-testing of a questionnaire, no, like here in this sample survey we can find this kind of survey which we conduct in a small, or on a small section or small group of a population. So there we have test the questionnaire, no. So here we test the questionnaire with the small group. So let us understand more about that sample survey. Population of the universe in statistics means totality of the item under study. I already said you what is population. Okay, so population means all the individuals or units which are from which we collect the information, no. So that is what population. To conduct a survey, first we should select the individuals or sample of population. Okay, there is a reason why we need to select some individuals or samples, because it is difficult to study the entire population. See that after forming that questionnaire we have to conduct that, or we have to select some samples from the population, because we cannot conduct that survey with the whole population, because the size of that population usually big. That's why it expects a lot of time, lot of expenditure or lot of cost and lot of enumerators. That's why we have to select some representative individuals or units of that population. That is what they have said. We cannot conduct the survey with the whole population because it is difficult to study the entire population. Once the sample of population is identified, then investigator can conduct a sample survey. See, once we select the representative units, then we can easily conduct that sample survey. So, let us understand what is sample. Before the sample survey, let us understand what is sample. Sample means a group or section. I repeat, sample means a group or section of the population from which information is to be obtained. I repeat, sample means a group or section of the population from which information is to be taken. That is what says that image. See, there you can find a number of people, like there we can find women, men and some children also. So among they have chosen only 2 individuals. We can call those individuals as sample because there we have identified only 2 individuals. No, that's why those are the samples. That's why sample means it is a group or section or the individuals or representative individuals of the population from which the information is to be obtained or to be collected. So a sample is generally smaller than population. See, if we see the number of people who are in that image, no, there we may say that around 20 to 25 people we can find there. So at the same time, if we see the individuals who are selected, means in that ring we can find only 2, means with the number of that individuals is less than the entire population. That is what the sample, the size of that sample, which is generally smaller than population, and is capable of providing a reasonable, accurate information about the population at the lower cost and shorter time. In spite of asking information, in spite of conducting that survey with the entire population, if we conduct the survey with only that representative units, that can give us reasonable accurate information about the population, and we can incur lower cost and lower or shorter time to collect the information. That's why we used to conduct we used to select the samples or the individuals from that population. So let us understand what is sample survey. So sample survey means it's a method where observations are obtained from a representative set or sample of the population. I repeat, sample survey means it's a kind of survey or it's a kind of method where observations are obtained from a representative set or sample of the population. See, in this sample survey, we collect the information from the representative units. So this kind of method is called sample survey. Okay, I hope you have understood. Sample survey means it's a method where we collect the information or we obtain the information or the observations from the representative units of the population. That is what a sample survey. For example, suppose you want to study the average income of the people in a category. I repeat, suppose you want to study the average income of people who is residing in a category. In this survey method, first you should choose sample or few individuals from the BETGERI region. Means here we have to select, or here we have to identify certain households or certain individuals as our sample, and we have to find out their income and add up them so add them up and divide by the number of households or individuals or sample to get average income of the people in the BETGERI. For example, if there are 100 households, if we choose 20% of that households, means if we choose 10% of household of that 100 households, then we should select 10 households. I repeat, or let me clear. If there are 100 households, we want to study 10% of households, means 10% of that 100 households is 10 households. So if we collect the income of that 10 households, if we add the income of that 10 households, if we divide that income with the 10, so we can get or we can able to see the average income of that household or that BETGERI region. The average income of the selected group of individuals is used as an estimate of average income of the individuals of the entire BETGERI. Or you can see that after getting a average income of that identified or that selected group, we can use that average income as it is an estimate of average income of the individuals of the entire BETGERI. It means we can apply or we can use that average income of the entire BETGERI region. So this is what sample survey. I repeat, sample survey means the method where observations are obtained from the representative or identified units or sample of the population. Hope you are getting what I am saying. Thereafter, types of sampling. So here means in our previous concept we have understood that. What do we understood? We understood that the meaning of that sample and sample survey. So after understanding that sample survey, we have to understand how we can select the individuals in the population, or how we can find, or how we have to choose that samples in a population. In earlier example, I have said there are 100 households. Among 10 households we have identified. Then how we have to choose that 10 households, because there are 100 households. Among that 100 households, which household we have to identify, or there we have choose 10 households. Then which households those are, how and those households we have to choose. Okay, in statistics we have two methods. From those methods we can identify those selected or the samples, such as random sampling method and non-random sampling method. Okay, through these kinds of methods we can identify or we can choose the samples. Let us understand what is random sampling. Random sampling is one where the individual units from the population are selected at random. I repeat, random sampling is nothing but it is the sampling where the individual units from the population are selected at random. So here we select the individuals or the sample randomly. Okay, there is no any particular kind of systematic manner. It means first we have to select this household or this individual or this sample, thereafter next, thereafter another one. So here we select the sample or individuals or the study unit randomly. So here we have certain methods. Through those kinds of methods we select the samples, like lottery method and one more, that is random table or random number table. Here we can find two kinds of methods in this random sampling method, such as lottery method and random number table method. So in that image I have said the first image which says about lottery method, second image which says about random number table. So if we take that lottery method, there we have to conduct certain activity, like in that so before that let us understand, in that random sampling, there each individuals or each units has an equal chance to being selected. So in that random sampling method, whatever the individuals are whoever come in that study area, no, or in that study aspect, no, or study region, no, there each, it means every individuals has an opportunity to being select or selected. Means here all individuals means every means there no one excluded in being selected. Means all are having a chance to being selected. Okay, they may select or not in that. It means they have a chance to being selected in that kind of lottery method or in that random sampling method. If we talk about that lottery method, in the lottery method we pick the piece of paper in which written the number or the name of a household or the individual. If we are studying the average income of household, at the time we have to write the name of household, or we have to we can give a number to that household. Okay, suppose we are having 100 households, then we have to prepare 100 piece of paper. It means we have to prepare 100 sheets. Thereafter we have to pick the piece of papers or the sheet from that 100 sheets. Means if we selected or if we have made 10% as sample of that 100 households, at the time we have to pick first 10 sheets or a piece of paper from that 100 sheets, then which or where we get first 10 piece of paper, no, or the sheets, no, those are our samples, or those will be selected samples. Like we find we select the sample in that random sampling method. That is what said in that. That is what we can understand by seeing that image, that is lottery method. In that hat, first we have to prepare some sheets. Thereafter we have to choose or we have to pick a certain piece of paper from that hat. So whichever the number comes, no, it means whichever sheet we find, no, so that sheet will be selected as our sample. So in the second example or second method, that is random number table. So here we see certain charts or a kind of a chart where we find the samples or the individuals from the population. So in this random number table, it is have been generated to guarantee equal probability of selected of every individual unit in the population. Here also each individuals are, here also we can find each units are equal chance of being selected. Here we select those numbers, or here we select those number which should equal or less than that population. For example, if the size of population is 500, then there are some numbers which are equal, there are some numbers which are equal to 500 or less than 500, those we have to choose to select the sample. Okay, in that image I have given two random number table. We will find some other random number tables like which contains 3-digit random table number, or we can find a 3-digit random number table, or 4-digit or 5-digit. So in that 3 digits, so we have to select the numbers which are equal to or less than that 500 number. So which comes, it means the number which will be less than that 500 or 500 to equal to that 500, no, those numbers will be our sample. So like by using lottery method and random number table, we can select the samples. So these are the two methods which comes in that random sampling method. Hope you have understood what is random sampling method. So in our next class we will see the rest of the concepts like non-random sampling. So in that it means along with that lottery method and random number table, we can find some other methods in that non-random sampling method. Through those also we can collect, or we can select the sample, or we can identify the individuals or the study units. Hope you have understood today's class. After this slide, I have framed certain questions on the today's class. Answer to those questions in comment session, and feel free to give feedback about the class.